Good afternoon, Sean here from Mountains Garage. As promised a while back, I'm going to start a video series of short videos about assembling a Turbo 400 with a trans brake. And this one is going to be called Case Prep. In the last video related to Turbo 400s, I stripped this transmission and it was all greasy, so I spent quality time right here at the bench with my trusty scraper and my pocket screwdriver, scraping all the nooks and crannies. You can see where the grease and oil sit, the aluminum's just like new. Other areas, it's what you would expect after years and years of baked on abuse. So, what are you going to do to the case? Step one, this is the vent tube. With the pump out of it, she's empty. This actually pushes right out through. I save it because, you know, if I'm building a stock one and they still need that, I'll put it back in. But I'm going to drill and tap the hole it came out of on the slightest angle, same angle it's there pretty much. 1/8 inch pipe. That's so I can put a fitting of some sort and run a hose down to a catch can, or at least run a hose down someplace that's not as dangerous as blowing it on the exhaust. Because that's exactly where that points. So it's no big deal. While the case is empty, drill and tap it. I've mentioned it before. I'm going to cut the ears off. Pretty much flush here. You're not going to run a converter cover when you got a small torque converter that creates a lot of heat to begin with, and most headers interfere with that. So this is going to be a race-only transmission. Once you make a few mods I'm going to make, it's not going to be, in your mom's station wagon. Well, if she's cool, maybe she doesn't mind manual shifting it, but anyway. So I'm going to cut the ears off both sides. Straight down from the line of the bell housing. I'm going to cut it right down here with the old trusty Sawzall. That's number 2. Modification number 3, I'm going to remove the stock cool line fittings that went to a 5/16 double flare situation. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I wouldn't mind running it, but I'm going to run -6 hose to my -6 cooler with AN fittings. I don't run hose clamps and rubber hose on an automatic transmission. I don't care if it's in a wheelbarrow. I'm not going to do it. My first car had hose clamps, a hose clamp and rubber hose situation repair on it, and that made me walk home twice. Never again. I was only 15. I learned my lesson. It's important to have the trans brake kit already, because it's going to come with some parts you're going to have to install inside the transmissions, and it will tell you, it'll call out exactly what kind of case modifications you need to make. Right now, while it's empty, no parts in it, because this will have to be cleaned. When I'm all done, I got to clean this one more time. There's a little, I don't know if you can see it or not. You can look it up. It's 1, 2, 3, and the 4th groove, if you will, in right above the modulator valve. There's a little China wall there, I guess you call it. And this one's down quite a ways. Some are almost flush. And that restricts your trans brake release flow. They say, some trans brake kits tell you to take a Dremel tool, cut that down some more. Others don't even mention it. I do it on all of them. I don't know if it helps or not, but it takes a few seconds, no big deal. I'm going to take my sharpening stone, like I showed you, and flatten this whole area. Particularly, I have a socket that fits really good around the center support bolt, but a lot of them, if you use a regular socket, will flare that out. And seeing as how your new valve body, trans brake valve body, doesn't take any gaskets, you need a good seal. So I'm going to do that. The rear case bushing, I'm going to replace it anyway, and I'm taking the factory thrush washer and spacer out, and I'm going to run a bearing in the bottom. It's a kit you can buy, it's like 20 bucks. So when I put the rear bushing in, I actually go up inside the case the slightest amount to register that, give the register for the bearing to sit on. I noticed a lot of the race cases come like that, and all they do is just move the bearing, the rear case bushing. When you drive it into the back, I'm going to actually go through the case. This one's actually sticking through already. It's probably in their 16th. So, again, you'll see when I actually assemble it. Gives it a nice place to sit. Kind of retains it. That'll consist of a I think it's a TH350 pump bushing, pump bearing on the back side of the pump. But anyway, it comes with a kit for a Turbo 400 to replace your thrust washer and make it ball bearing thrust. It comes with the bearing and a bunch of shims. I like to put the shims up on the output shaft. I'm going to show you that. I'm getting ahead of myself when I assemble, but the only reason I mention it now is you need the kit, and I'm going to put the case bushing in a little bit forward just to hold it. I mean, not much, and that's it. Not related to a trans brake installation, but I completely stripped my cases, and I put a new linkage seal in every time because that's a pain if it leaks. You got to disassemble too much. You'll see when I assemble it, a nail that actually holds the shaft in. You can get it out with the pump in, but it's a pain. So that'll be after I paint it. I'll put a new linkage seal in. This is all part of case prep. Typically I would remove this little bracket, but in this case I have an internal solenoid valve body. The pass-through is going to be right here where your electric kickdown used to be. And I'm going to have a wire coming down to it. I might as well use that bracket. It's not even rusted. This transmission was beautiful. I have to decide whether I'm going to run a speedometer or not. I have freeze plugs. I'll tell you the size when I get there if I put one in. Or I can choose to still leave the speedometer drive in there. There's no advantage or disadvantage. I guess there's a disadvantage if I sell it to somebody and they want to hook up the speedometer. They might want that. And again, related to what you would do in even a stock rebuild, you got to check all your surfaces, everything where wear could occur, rendering the case junk, and all your threads. I inspect every one of them and put in helicoils if necessary. There's nothing worse than going to bolt your valve body down and strip out a bolt because you didn't see the threads are messed up by somebody else. These don't take, I don't use a torque wrench on this stuff. I got a wrist feel. If you try to torque these down, probably gonna pull the threads out. My experience anyway. I don't have any problems with bolts loosening up. I know just how tight they should be. It's a feel. If I was installing an Ultra Bell, I would have chosen a case with more pump bolts. I've covered that already too. This one only has 6, which is fine because I'm running the stock bell housing. And last but not least, after I do all my modifications and I wash it again, I'm going to paint it. I have plugs for every hole because I don't want to overspray where it shouldn't be. I have an old pan I bolt on. I have a piece of cardboard cut out for the pump. I have little plastic things to stick everywhere. Actually, for the governor hole, when I had a C5 Corvette, I bought lift adapters that actually go up into the frame of the C5 Corvette. Perfect size for my governor hole. I sold the Vet. Actually, I traded it for a dump trailer. Whole nother story. But I've been using one of them to cover that when I paint it. This won't have a governor. It'll have a cap, but either way, I don't want paint in there. It's not right. Shouldn't do it. All right, so next time you see me, I think how these videos are going to work out is I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. And then when I start the next video, I'll briefly go over it, but maybe I won't. Either way, you won't see what I'm going to do. I got to do my homework. You go do yours. And I'll meet you back at the next one, and we'll start working on the lower gear train. All right, get busy. Like and subscribe. Talk to you soon. Bye.